Don't you mind people grinning in your face? Don't you mind people grinning in your face? Your mother will talk about you, your sister and your brothers too. No matter how you try to live, they're gonna talk about you still. So don't you mind people grinning in your face? Don't you mind people grinning in your face? They'll knock you up and down. They'll tread you all around and round. And as soon as your back is turned, they'll be trying to put you down. So don't you mind people grinning in your face? Don't you mind people grinning in your face?
How are you? I woke up this morning. What did I see? Woke up this morning with a minimum fee. Hello everyone, how are you today? My name's Quinlan, welcome to Melbourne Musos Facebook Live. Hello, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, or perhaps camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, I don't care. I love yous all. And today, I think you might have caught my hints. The blues, mate, the blues. Okay, go the mighty blues. You won last night. Hey. But what I'm talking about is the blues as a genre and how important it is. I'm going to take you through a couple of things here. What I'm going to do, I'm sitting on my leads here. And what goes on is, we all know, or I hope we all know, maybe you don't know, so that's why I'm here to explain it. But the good old 12 bar, the history, the genre, the people, the beats, and the harmony, of which I've sort of tuned Doris a bit to the harmony here. I'll show you what I mean. There you go. Now I'm going to talk about it a little bit there. I'm going to play it a little bit. I'm going to talk about a little bit. Oh, Uncle Arthur's back. Oh, everybody, how are you today? How was St. Paddy's Day with a bit of horizontal Irish dancing? Oh, boy, my head. There you go. I'm going to talk about the blues, though. I hope you've recovered well from St. Paddy's Day. Blues is a music genre and musical form which was originated in the deep south of the United States around the 1860s by African Americans from roots in African American work songs and spirituals. Blues incorporated spirituals, work songs, field hollers, shouts, chants, and rhymed simple narrative ballads. The blues form ubiquitous, I love that word, ubiquitous, in jazz, rhythm and blues and rock and roll, is characterized by the call and response pattern. The blues scale and specific chord progressions, of which the 12-bar blues is the most common. Blue notes, or worried notes, is what they say, usually thirds, fifths, or sevenths, flattened in pitch, are also an essential part of the sound. Blues shuffles or walking bass reinforce the trance-like rhythm and form a repetitive effect known as the groove. We all got to have the groove, mate. There you go. So there it is. That's the first paragraph of a few. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is the blues as an art form is one of the most important and most revered in music. It came out of, as I just read, the South of America. Now, does everyone remember what the 1860s was? It was the time of the American Civil War, and where President Abraham Lincoln fought for the freedom of the slaves and an end to slavery, an end to the business model of slavery. And we are all the better for that. And what happens is this. With that deep culture that comes from Africa, bonded into slavery, over into... You've got to remember there's one thing. What happened is Cuba was a trading island. Havana, Cuba was a trading port. And the dear people of Africa that were bonded into slavery, even back to the 16th, 17th centuries, the slave owners, funnily enough, President Washington, the first American president, was a slave owner. He had wooden teeth and slaves, a bit like Mitzi Gaynor, courtesy of Monty Python. Mitzi Gaynor with wooden teeth and fabulous tits. There you go. Anyway, but what goes... don't quote... That's Monty Python. Sir Monty Python. But what goes on is that what happens with that is that the slave owners would buy their slaves, and it's a very sad time. And the slaves that went down into South America and into Brazil were allowed to keep their instruments and whatever they could play on. And what would happen was, you know, things like the 3-2 clave and all sorts of stuff started to come together, you see. But the slaves who went north were not, so they sang, and this is where the blues genre sort of began, you see. So what happened was these dear people started something that to this day is so important to us all. So there you go. I'm going to talk about it now. One of the things about a 12-bar blues, it's a call and response. A lot of people call it, including me, a 4-2-1 pattern. Because what you have, and using my toms here, Doris has been specially tuned for the day. We have a 1. When you're talking about scales and scale tones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what happens is with a 12-bar blues, it's a 12-bar cycle. Think of it like a clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so what happens is... Oh, Sandy Nelson again. 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Back to 1. Then 5, 4, 1. And if you can do it again. 5, 8. There you go. So that's the 12-bar blues. Now, what we're going to talk about now is the actual tones. Now, did you notice that what I did there was I had essentially tom number 2 as the root note. The snare drum itself is 4. Back to 1. Second snare is 5, 4. Now I'm being more like a rock and rolly thing, but the funny thing about it is when I do all my research every Friday and all that, I was having a little bit of a listen to Robert Johnson doing Crossroads and all that, and his, his beat was moving between almost like like that. It's very, very, well, it's solo, and really, it was moving. It was like the flow. It wasn't like a standard, whatever, but let's talk about that a little bit. I'm talking a lot about tonal stuff at the moment. Now, I'll just quickly talk about the beats. And the first main beat you have is a blues beat, and it is either, some people call it a 6/8 blues, that's okay. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or a 12/8 blues, which I was counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Or you can count it as triplets in 4/4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Now, if I'm going to talk, this is a bit of a drum tip show, seeing I'm behind this big ass drum kit. The fact is that it can be triplets in 4/4, or it could be normal quavers in 12/8. It depends on what is around it, you see. It can be written in either. But what happens is, let me give you the difference between the two and where you'd use them and where you would not. What happens is that when you're playing a normal rock beat, let's say, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and then go to triplets to make a blues beat, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Back to quavers, that's triplets in 4/4 to make the blues beat, right? The Wanderer, like that. But if I go back to the normal beat, 12/8, there's no changing, there's no moving to triplets. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 1 and 2 and 3. What happens is the difference between is that if you are going to play a blues beat in triplet style, what happens is you're changing the value of the notes from normal quavers to quaver triplets. However, if you are playing a blues beat and playing in 12/8, you're not changing the value of the notes, you are changing the value of the time signature. That's what goes on. Classic example is Dazed and Confused by Led Zeppelin. I've been dazed and confused, the lies are true. No change on the hi-hat there, except now you've got a bit raucous. You see, so there's a fundamental change there. So go check out Dazed and Confused, Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page, one of the great blues guitarists, who always sort of said that Led Zeppelin wasn't a heavy metal band, they were just a hard blues band. That's what it was. That's how they always called themselves, and they've got lots of blues to prove it. You Shook Me, I Can't Quit You Baby on the first album. You've got Since I've Been Loving You with one of the great contemporary blues solos. I would contend that that's a better solo than the one on Stairway to Heaven from Mr. Page. And his favourite guy was Big Bill Broonzy. And there you go. When you're talking about people like Jack White, who loves the blues, he loved Son House, just adored him, that kind of thing. And when we're talking about this kind of blues thing, Always remember where it came from. It came out of adversity. They weren't allowed to have their instruments, though they sang. I woke up this morning, then they would sing their lament. You see, I was big last week. I've still got the remnants, okay, tattooed on the back of my neck, that the family came from Ireland and ran an Irish pub called Dan O'Connell. But what it is I've done that already. But what it is it's the same kind of adversity, and it's the same kind of love and respect for where your roots are and where you come from and going to, you know, that kind of thing. So what happens is that out of it, that adversity of slavery in the 19th century, for which Abraham Lincoln, you know, essentially he was assassinated before the war was even finished. And so he went down fighting, and he won. And we've all won because of that. It's a long, hard-fought battle because it is the central plank of everything we hold dear. And that's what goes on. They had nothing. They would everything was taken away from these poor people, and yet they sang. They couldn't take away the voice of, woke up this morning, this is what we did. And like I said, it's their lament, just like the Irish lament of leaving your homeland and everything that goes with that. Getting a bit heavy, isn't it, Chris? Note to self. But let's move on. With the blues beats, I just talked about the typical blues beat in 12/8 or 4/4. Once you start to pick it up, you start to go into shuffle land. There it is, there's the shuffle. 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 1 to 2 to 3 and to 4 to 1 to 2 to 3 and to 4. There you go, there it is. All right, I'll talk a little bit more about harmony now. Do you want me to explain shuffles? I suppose I should. 1 to 2. What happens is you base it on triplets or groupings of 3. And if you to do triplets, you take out the end. So it'll be 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Adjust the count so it's just 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 1 to 2 to 3. Yeah. You're going home in the back of the divvy van. And away you go. I don't know why I'm doing the divvy van one. That was last year's show. Anyway, there it is there. Now, when I'm talking about tonalities and things, I'll get back into drums just a little bit. You can find tonality anywhere, and you work with what you've got. Okay, so what happens is I just finished doing... There it is there. And what starts to happen here is that you can do a couple of different things. What happens sometimes with different things? Do you notice that, say, in the heavy metal genre, you have a basic sort of kit, and then heaps of cymbals for all the accents, you know, you're surrounded in cymbals. And I'm surrounded in cymbals here. And what happens is I'll draw your attention to these three cymbals here. They are respectively 16, 18, albeit with a small crack in it, and a 20. Now, when I'm talking about the aforementioned 1-4-5 pattern of the blues, not quite. Can you hear that even with the tonality, 1, 4, 5, 1, they resolve, you see. So when you're mixing and matching cymbals, you're going in to buy a set of cymbals, a cymbal set, you know. Take your own sticks, that's one thing. So you know what you're playing, because sticks do change the timbre of the cymbal to a certain degree. And then think about what you're doing. You know, why you're buying them and all that. Sometimes you can get them at random and it works. and sometimes you just got to fish a little bit, you know. So there you go. There's see? Get the idea? Over to the left here, boys and girls. What we have here is the pentatonic scale. Now I'm going to talk about the harmony of the blues. And what you have is probably the most used scale in the world is the pentatonic scale. And in this particular case, it's the minor pentatonic scale. So what you have is the 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, octave. There. So I've got the piccolos tuned to the pentatonic. Now, what happens is people like Terry Bozzio, who actually developed these piccolo toms, he thinks like a piano. Okay, so he has his drum kit laid up very much like a pianist would. I play guitar, so I treat it like when I'm looking at my guitar and I'm playing a minor pentatonic, and I'm thinking about tabs. Can you tab it out, mate? 1 4 1 3 1 3. I woke up this morning. Can you tab it out? Sorry, I've lost half my audience. Where did you go, audience? This one here was the 5th when I was working this part. Now it's the flat 5, and you get. All right, I'll do the party trick. We all came down to Gigland, another fucking door take. There it is there, finished on the tonic. You see what's going on with this? The ulterior motives of everything too. And what you also have is the major pentatonic, which is the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, and 6th. In other words, it's a kind of a mode. You see, what happens is that when you're dealing with the minor pentatonic, let's say in guitar land, you have 1 4 1 3 1 3, but in major pentatonic, you do exactly the same notes, but start on the 4th. There you go. And that's what goes on there. And then what goes on after that is that when you add the blue note, the flat 5, and I'll go over it with you and I'll put it here, is that the minor pentatonic is the 1st, the flat 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the flat 7th, and the octave. When you want a blues scale, you add the flat 5, pardon me. So what you would have is the 1st, the flat 3rd, the 4th, the flat 5, 5, flat 7, octave. There it is there, I hope, later on, with a bit of editing cordial. And then the major pentatonic, of course, gives you a bit more of a country kind of sound, I suppose. 1 2 3 5 6, and there you have that. Now there's another little thing called the chromatic blues scale, and if you're thinking guitar, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. So it's like a chromatic scale, but because you're putting all the little chromatic tones, little passing notes, inside the box pattern, if you want to think of it like that, what starts to happen, it gives you a bluesy sound. If you want to get a bit funky, like the Meters, with Zigaboo Modeliste on drums. What a fantastic name, a great drumming for the Meters. I'm going to get into that in a second because I've talked about blues beats and shuffles. I'm going to get into New Orleans a little bit there because New Orleans is just above Cuba and it has a big thing. It's the originations of jazz and everything, which I talked about a month ago. But this is to do with blues, and the blues genre as an art form. And what happens is that with that, you have your pentatonic sounds. It's also, the scale itself is also the central scale of Africa and, funnily enough, China too. So what happens is in our Western scale system, one would think do, re, mi, the major scale, is the most used. But as soon as you start thinking of continents like Africa and the country of China, and then, of course, contemporary music, rock and roll, blues, I think we can safely say that the pentatonic scale is the most used scale in the world. There you go. Now, because of this area of Cuba, the southern states of America, slavery, the slave economic model, and everything that goes with that, people actually expecting, that kind of business, and earning their money from other people's work in that regard. What goes on is that New Orleans started to figure large because that's the big trading port, going up from Cuba, which was the main area there, which I talked about at the start of the show. What happens is, when I was doing the Earl Palmer show, he was big on the New Orleans because he was born in New Orleans, and that's how he grew up playing, and he became the inventor of rock and roll drumming. Now, with him, a little bit further on, but in the late 60s into the 70s, we're talking about Earl Palmer, who really debuted in the early 50s and just set the stage for everything that we're doing now. What happens is that Zigaboo Modelist was also born in New Orleans, and when you're listening to the meters, and half the funk world are still just emulating what they did in the 70s. They were just so funky. It just changed music for that, in that groove, as was said just there. One of the things that happens is that you've got things like the Calypso rhythm, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then you put it in. And you have to remember that that rhythm actually comes from Africa, and in Africa they call it a soukous rhythm, S-O-U-K-O-U-S. Back in the day, I was filming the Apollo Bay Music Festival back in the 90s, and I filmed a wonderful band called Soukous Lekole, and they had everybody up in the big tent dancing away, and the drummer was basically spending the whole gig going. And there it is. It's a soukous rhythm, you see. You got that kind of thing. The Calypso comes from Trinidad, and which is just off the coast of the north. It's just a speck in the ocean above South America. We're talking about essentially that whole region, Caribbean Sea, sort of thing. And go up a bit further. You've got Jamaica, where reggae started. That. It's got all these entwining. Oh, it's fascinating. I love it. Oh, that's almost the start to the meters Looka Pai Pai, I think as well. Looka Pai Way or something like that. And the meters, of course, are famous for Sissy Strut, which is actually in the educational syllabuses. And a lot of people think he did it one hand. He does it two-handed. So a little thing with Zigaboo Modelist, he's got such a wonderful groove. And it really is like what Earl Palmer said, is like a drummer when he comes from New Orleans by the way he uses the bass drum. That's one of the things. So what happens is you get that. I better start thinking about wrapping the show up. I suppose it's coming to that time. So what I'm going over here is a few different things, okay, about the history of the blues. I can't hope to. I mean, so much of this is ingrained into our souls simply from our rock and roll. I didn't mean to rhyme, but there it is. What it is that's what you've got. I've gone over things. I've got my little notes here, my set list, blues beats, 12-bar blues, the difference between 4/4 and 12/8. I've got the shuffles. I did a quick thing on that. New Orleans, I wanted to talk about Zigaboo Modelist with the meters, Earl Palmer, all wrapped up. They come from the same place and so damn funky with their groove. The pentatonic scale, which is central, the harmony, the 12 bars. You've got to think in cycles now. Think like a clock. And then some of the great artists, W.C. Handy, Bessie Smith, Robert Johnson, Leadbelly, Sunhouse, Ma Rainey, the mother of blues, Big Bill Brunzi and Robert Johnson, I mentioned him, and so many hundreds of others. Go off and just spend the night having a listen to these wonderful people from yesteryear. And there you go, there's my show. No triggers tonight because I thought, why not? I had them up, ready to go. Look, they're here somewhere. Hang on. What is that again? I think it's a B-flat pentatonic is what that is. But I didn't really want to. I thought, nah, I'll go Doriso Natural. It sounds so sleazy. Root note, remember? There it is, you can get it out of anything. Pieces of tin if you have to. Expensive pieces of tin. Yeah, I'm out of here. I hope you enjoyed the show. My name's Chris Quinlan. It is Melbourne Musos, Facebook Live. It's all about the blues and what people had to go through to develop this much loved and adored framework, genre, history, singing the blues, man. Oh my God, sort of thing. One of the things is last week I was doing the St. Patrick's Day show, and it's all fun and frivolity. It's all wonderful. You love it. All the jokes, you know. How do you describe Irish dancing? You know, sort of thing. Well, set fire to your shoes and then try and put them out. I love that joke. It's oldie but goodie. But what it is there's a lot of continuity and there's a lot of similarities between the history and what St. Patrick's Day means, and there's a lot of connection about that and what the dear people of Africa, bonded into slavery, had to go through to get where they did. They had a president who ended up sticking up for them, and you want to listen, or you want to go have a read of the history of Abraham Lincoln, because it took him a little while to come around. He just had a basic philosophy of just treat everyone fairly, you see, and all that. But then it developed into what became what it was, pushback, and look what happened. That's our history. And look at what we're doing now. We're listening to Led Zeppelin, and go back a step. That's how I started. I went, how did he do that on Dazed and Confused? How did he do that on I Can't Quit You, Babe? Oh my Lord, what's kind of a guitar? And then I read an interview. Oh, I love Big Bill Broonzy. So somehow I found a vinyl of Big Bill Broonzy, you know, that kind of thing. And it just goes from there, you know, like even with Jack White, you know, he just says Sun House, you know, that kind of thing, straight up. And then I started hearing about everybody else. And then, you know, and look at all the blues nights we've got here and everything. It's the central thing to R&B and jazz, and it's just the central plank. And look what the people had to go through to get it to you. It's a big, long fight, and it doesn't stop, really, in many cases. There you go. Especially today's thing, where we're all, you know, like that, ready to turn on the nightly news. You know, Skyhook's had it right, horror movie and the nightly news. But anyway, I'm out of here, and my name's Chris Quinlan. I'll have this up tonight, maybe, or tomorrow, depending on what's going on. And I've got, well, I just love doing these things. I just love them. They're great. I spent the afternoon, I said, oh, I'll tune you up. I love you, baby. And I'm out of here. Mwah, 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 mwah. And I shall see you on the morrow. I'll have it up, 3-camera shoot, bit of blue screen, and away we go. And all the things about the harmony. And I hope I've helped you with the drumming too. All right. See you later. Bye.
Don't you mind people grinning in your face? Don't you mind people grinning in your face? Your mother will talk about you, your sister and your brothers too. No matter how you try to live, they're gonna talk about you still. So don't you mind people grinning in your face? Don't you mind people grinning in your face? They'll knock you up and down. They'll tread you all around and round. And as soon as your back is turned, they'll be trying to put you down. So don't you mind people grinning in your face? Don't you mind people grinning in your face?